Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Auburn Undercover podcast. It's been a while. The podcast, as always, is presented by WeHaveDonuts.com, D-O-U-G-H, nuts.com. Make sure to visit their website and check out their new pop-up locations all around Birmingham. And, of course, you can pick up their donuts at Prevail Union Coffee Shops here in Auburn and in Montgomery. You should check them out at WeHaveDonuts.com for much more information on their beautiful and delicious donuts. Mike, National Signing Day has come and gone. Auburn signed 9 players. Of course, it's a different age now with the early signing period and now this. You see the bigger programs are signing most of their players in December now, and now you kind of get a handful late, and you're always in on maybe some 4- and 5-star guys that want to wait till signing day. For Auburn, no decommitments. That was kind of like the big thing Gus Malzahn was pushing. They had no decommitments. They signed 9 guys. They swung and missed on Justin Ross, which wasn't a surprise, really. A lot of people thought he was either going to Clemson or Alabama. He ended up signing with Clemson, and you were there for that. And then they had to add a couple guys late, and one of those was Caleb Johnson, who you spoke to, was at his signing day ceremony. But before we get to that, what's your overall, take on this 9-man class coming in? And Auburn's first non-top 10 finish in the 24/7 Sports Composite in the Gus Malzahn era.
Man, fans were besides themselves. That's kind of what I noticed, that I think there was a general level of frustration that Auburn wasn't one of the top teams, kind of in the sense that they were in on basically nobody that was worth anything other than Justin Ross, which he kind of, like you said, was kind of a foregone conclusion. He wasn't coming to Auburn until the last second, where people kind of thought that he might change his mind. But they were in on none of the big names, and I think people were kind of just frustrated that there wasn't a bigger splash made. And maybe they've been spoiled in recent years, where Derek Brown and Big Cat and Nate Craig last 2 years kind of on signing day. But I thought that was kind of surprising. And I mean, it is surprising, just the fact that they had spots to fill, and they had an offensive line with I think they could have offered early playing time, and they couldn't land anybody. So that was kind of my big takeaway, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with the offensive line part. That's one of my biggest takeaways from this, is that they were unable to get someone. And Gus Malzahn tried to explain, hey, we had Herb Hand, then he left, and then we had J.B. Grimes come in, so it was kind of difficult from that standpoint. But even before that, when Herb Hand was still here, it didn't seem like they were,
trending towards getting the person, yeah.
And they're still going after one guy, Calvin Anderson.
Right.
But Bruce Feldman, I believe, reported a week or two ago that Auburn's third on his list. The good thing for Auburn is they host him this weekend, so they can change his mind a little bit and see what happens from there. But that would be a big pickup. He's from Rice. Grad transfer, would be immediately eligible. Auburn needs help with an offensive line, and Gus Malzahn admitted it. That was the one place they fell short. Every year he's usually saying, yeah, everything's great, but he actually kind of admitted, yeah, we fell short there, and at tight end, for that matter. Because if you remember, early signing period, he said we still want a big-time tight end, and they didn't sign one at all. So those are two big areas they got to fill up, either on the grad transfer market, especially offensive line, here in the summer, and especially next signing period. They're going to have to sign a lot of linemen.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just an optics standpoint too. When you're kind of watching some of the coverage and the major storylines, it was Georgia sucking all the oxygen out of things, and then Alabama, and you're Auburn, and you are just outside of a top 10 class. It wasn't a disaster, but I mean, you're third in the SEC and third by a wide margin behind Alabama and Georgia putting a class together that's pretty incredible just on paper.
Number one in the nation, yeah.
Yeah, I know some fans got a little overboard. So one title of a post was, we just wasted $50 million. And maybe that's probably a little too soon, but I think their point is, I understand their point, that if you're on Georgia and Alabama's level, you should be on their level. So, and this class I don't think was.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is that if you want to go by numbers and compare
and that's
things,
all you can do right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you can do. Yeah.
This class, technically ranked 12th, is the worst of the Malzahn era, which is crazy to think. Number 12 is the worst. But is actually better as far as composite numbers with our system than last year's class, which I found, was kind of interesting. This is also the second most 4-star recruits they've ever signed under Gus Malzahn, but it's the first class, I believe, they haven't had a 5-star. But if you want to go back, I'm playing devil's advocate here for fans who think this was just a bad finish. There's been some 5-stars that haven't panned out for Auburn in recent years. Byron Coward, of course, being the big one. In fact, Byron Coward, if you look at our system, is the best recruit to ever sign with Auburn in the modern internet era of recruiting websites. So take it for what you will, but I do agree I can understand why fans are upset because they just didn't have that big, strong finish like they've had in recent years. And
they had less people to worry about because basically they had 22 guys almost from the last signing period locked up. You know, they had 8 commits basically.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, I know you're trying to stop, you know, you're keeping those and playing defense a little, but there weren't very many guys that were even on the bubble. I mean, Coinus Miller maybe and one other, but everybody else was kind of pretty solid. So you kind of think, well, if you're only working on 5 guys, what are you doing? And you don't land anybody really. So it's like, you know, and I can understand that. I think, you know, wasting $50 million is an excessive reaction, but I can understand where it's like you got 6 weeks and you don't land a 4-star, you know, I could see why people would be a little frustrated.
Sure, but it also could have been a lot worse from the standpoint, not necessarily ranking, but every big program, just about every program, might lose a commitment in the final days before signing day, or if you're like LSU, you might lose guys on signing day. Auburn just, in the Malzahn era, for whatever reason, they've been able to secure folks and they don't decommit.
But the alternative would be that Georgia lost people that they didn't want because they were getting higher people.
Yeah, well, Georgia, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on at Georgia, but it seems like they've got 58 coaches on staff because they hired 2 new coaches on signing day. They were not stealing, but getting all these big recruits to decommit from others. It's amazing the run they're on, and as you mentioned earlier, that only magnifies.
And that's the problem. You're only worried about the 2 programs.
Right.
You know, it's like, and those are the 2 programs that.
And Alabama didn't have a day that was up to its recent history either.
Right, but it still finished
ahead of Auburn.
Right,
and then that's the other interesting thing. Auburn finished 3rd in the SEC, and as you said, there's kind of a wide margin there, especially between Georgia and Auburn as far as numbers. But it's the first time Auburn's finished above 4th in the SEC in the Malzahn era. And a lot of that had to do with LSU under Ed Orgeron just not doing very well. They bombed. I would say that if you wanted to look at programs that kind of fell apart down the stretch for recruiting, LSU takes the cake in the SEC this year.
Yeah.
Because what happened there, man, whew.
But you kind of expected as much a little bit with just the way that program's gone.
Yeah, and then
some of the changes they've made.
And the changes, yeah. So, I think that's our biggest takeaways from the day. You know, I think fans, I was thinking this. What if Anthony Schwartz waited till signing day to announce?
Like if they got one of those guys?
Yeah, and programs do that. They go, hey, you're committed to us, whatever, silently, but let's wait till signing day. But Auburn doesn't do that.
No.
They haven't. Since at least the Malzahn's been here, that's the only time I've been here. They've never had that guy where they go, "Hey, be silent until signing day." They're literally like, if they're in it at the end, it's not until signing day until they know.
Yeah.
So anyway, Auburn number 12 in the recruiting rankings. Keith Niebuhr has plenty of coverage on that on our website, and of course, he's already looking ahead to 2019. I believe he's got a list of 25 names to watch for the 2019 signing class, and of course, a lot of offensive linemen to be looking at there as well. Now, moving forward here for the here and now on the playing surfaces, the basketball team, not in a rut, I would say, but kind of took a hit, losing to Texas A&M 81-80 on late Wednesday night. And the big hit to them, more than anything that could affect them more than just one game, is Bryce Brown went down with a shoulder injury in the final 3.5 minutes of the first half. Did not return. He's questionable for the Georgia game. I thought it was almost not miraculous, but incredible that Auburn came back from a 17-point deficit and actually took the lead against A&M late without Bryce Brown on the court, who's their best player, as we've talked about here. I thought that was huge, just showing their fight. But this could be a big hit to them down the stretch if they can't get him back or even back to 100%, Mike, especially as they go on the road at Georgia, where Auburn's, other than a couple of years ago or a year ago when they beat them, it seems that they seem to struggle there in Athens.
Yeah, Georgia's kind of spiraling right now. I mean, they had that win against Florida, but they've lost, I think, 5 of their last 6, which is not good. And going back even further, looks like, 7 out of their last 9.
Yeah,
so,
and they're coming off a pretty big loss to Vandy, right? I didn't keep up with it too much, but I heard about
15
that.
points. So, and then they lost 15 points to Mississippi State. Both those games were on the road, but I mean, those are some bad losses. So yeah, I mean, you'd think that they're still going to be favored, and not maybe by the books, but just the idea that they killed this team in the second half last time they played, and I think the teams are trending in different directions, but. I think Bryce is going just in case he wakes up and he's feeling better. But I don't know. I think you'd hold him out just because you've got a cushion. You lose this game, it's not the end of the world. It's a road game. Georgia's not a team you have to worry about the tiebreaker. And you got bigger games against Kentucky and Alabama coming up. So you just kind of, I think you roll the dice without him just because that's the cushion you've built. But he's a competitor, so it's probably easier to say that than to tell him that. But I think they can afford to lose a game here. I don't think it's going to kill them.
Yeah. Now, of course, it'll hurt their RPI a little bit and all that, but at this point, they're a top 5 seed, and they can still stay above that line, as I've mentioned here too, by losing a couple more games. It's just that. When they get Alabama, Kentucky at home, those are games that can make the difference between you being a 5 seed and, say, a 3 seed.
Well, and you want Bryce healthy for those games, I think. I think you'd rather lose to Georgia without him than not have him.
And the committee would take that into consideration with seeding.
Right.
Too.
And I think Kentucky wins over Kentucky and Alabama will look better at this point than a loss on the road without your best player to the committee.
Yeah. So, I'm guessing here. I mean, you're on it all day, every day, and you're there. It doesn't sound like it's a super serious injury, or what are you gathering there for Bryce?
It's just sore, and so they have to kind of wait to.
So there's nothing's torn.
Not that we've been told.
Okay.
He was evaluated Thursday afternoon. Didn't practice. But yeah, I mean, day to day, questionable, however you want to word it. But but he was sore and he was hurting. So it was an interesting kind of when it happened. It happened on the block.
Yeah.
And
just
it's kind of a weird play. Just the idea that that guy was strong enough to hurt his arm on that block shot because Bryce was the one going up.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a matter of the angle your arm's in. It doesn't take much force to injure your shoulder when you're stretched out like that. So but I mean, the problem for him is that he's a shooter. So any pain and anything that throws off your shot is probably more magnified than, say, if you're Horace Spencer when you don't have that sort of complement of part of your game. So defending, Bruce Pearl talked about how he couldn't lift his arm to defend a shot. And that was a big shot, too. That started the A&M's run there near the end of the first half.
Yeah, so he's going to need to get better before he can think about playing. So
yeah, he could have put his hand up, and a 4-point lead for A&M went to 7. And then, of course, A&M ended up building off that into halftime, double digits, and then getting up to 17 the first 90 seconds of the second half. And Bryce Brown's their best on-ball defender, too.
Yeah, and I mean, they're already, they're not thin in the sense like some teams choose to go with a 9-man rotation, but they don't have any options, beyond that. They don't have any scholarship players coming, and then you go to 8, and you're really talking about loading up the minutes on some of your tougher guys, which they've tried to avoid all season on some of your starters. Jared Harper is going to be called to play way more minutes than Mustafa Heron. So
Davion Mitchell has got to get better.
Well, he's got to play quality minutes. He's played minutes, but he's not played well lately.
Right.
And so, they could look at him. I was at practice for a little while the other day, and he's played off the ball quite a bit this season, but more so. He struggled not defensively but offensively, running the offense, and so maybe the role for him right now is just to play off the ball a little more, so you could kind of keep him in there at times.
He needs to, because even in the A&M game, he played more. Of course, when Bryce went down, he had 4 turnovers in that game. Davion did.
Yeah, so if he's not, and it's understandable. He's a first-year player, and he's playing big games, and it's tough. So keep Jared with the ball, but then let Davion get some minutes, spell Mustafa or whoever as the 2 guard. And he can kind of, help and give them some athleticism and things like that. But,
what did you?
He's struggling.
Yeah. What did you think of? I mean, A&M was just bigger, of course, and that was a big concern for Auburn, really going into this stretch here with Alabama and Kentucky coming to town. A&M just kind of did what you would see sometimes in high school or junior high ball if you had a bigger team. You would just loft it over everybody else in the paint, and he would catch it and put it up. A&M did that maybe half a dozen times that game, if not more. And that wasn't necessarily the difference, but man, it made make a difference in a couple of their runs and keeping Auburn from really taking over the game in the late minutes. But is that a concern going forward? Because this is the first time I really heard from a player just come out and say, yeah, we really missed Austin Wiley tonight. We could have really used him.
It depends on what other teams do. It's what I've said is that other teams kind of get into Auburn's rhythm and just try to start matching them 3 for 3, and don't use the inside. And a lot of times this season that the opposing teams have gotten into foul trouble with their bigs and haven't had the option. Whereas Texas A&M, they flirted with it. They got away from it in that second half. And, when Auburn came back, they struggled because they weren't going inside. Then they did and, settled down. Not a lot of teams will have that luxury that Auburn facing, and not a lot of teams will have this. They were pretty good at setting up those passes. I mean, a lot of them were close.
Right.
They weren't easy.
Well, that and they were just great setup plays. I mean,
so not every team's going to have that, and especially the two. Robert Williams and Tyler Davis as a combination.
Williams is incredible.
Williams was really good. So, it was the perfect storm. Texas A&M is not a team that Auburn matches up well.
No. So, and I thought Vanderbilt was probably in the same breath. They just didn't have. They just didn't have the experience like A&M does.
Right, and so Alabama obviously is a concern. Kentucky's a concern, but you look at it, there's not. I don't think South Carolina is kind of screaming that kind of worry and things like that. So. But yeah, Texas A&M bad matchup, and Auburn knew it, I think, coming into it too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Auburn plays Georgia, and you may have already watched the game by the time you listen to this. 2:30 p.m. Central Time on Saturday. We'll have updates, of course, on the board and at auburnundercover.com. As we said, a loss doesn't necessarily kill Auburn, but they've got to get Bryce Brown back on the court here.
It hurts them more for the SEC title than it does the tournament, basically. And I mean, they want the SEC title, obviously the regular season title, but they're going to have a long-term view of it, I believe.
Yeah, you have to at this point, especially when you get into the second half of a season. Moving back to football here briefly, as everybody knows, Auburn is undergoing some construction projects at Jordan-Hare Stadium, the new game day facility, and the new press box. I say the new press box, but the old press box that they're ripping apart and building into luxury suites. Those are well underway. Both projects supposed to be completed in August. I have no idea where they're going to put the media for spring game. We might be sitting in the stands. Which I'd probably almost rather maybe put us on a sideline or something, but that won't happen. So those are well underway. Everything seems to be on track with that. Actually starting to see some glass go up in that game day facility right now. And then, of course, everybody's kind of wondering if Auburn's going to build a football facility after Gus Malzahn received his 7-year, $49 million contract. Everything I'm hearing is that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when and how much and where, for that matter, where they're going to put it. But it's going to happen, folks. I said it the day we reported, actually, on his contract extension, that part of it, the discussion was a football facility, and we keep hearing from folks in that building that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, how they get the money together, and whatever. But it's a priority for Gus Malzahn and his football program at this time. Now, where does Alan Green fit in that, the new athletics director? Of course, he's going to have to go around and probably drum up support and help with fundraising, which leads to my next question. Where is Alan Green?
He's on his listening tour.
That's what I think he's doing. Yeah, he's been here at Auburn. His first day was February 1st. That was a little over a week ago. He was at the game against Texas A&M. I was told he was hanging out with a lot of the big money folks, getting to know them a little bit, and certainly sounds like he's following through with what he said he would do at his press conference, which is he's hanging out with everybody and listening and going to try to make some decisions from there. But he's also made it a point to kind of not be out in the public and, as he said, talking a lot. He's a guy that's, very active on social media and everything. Outside of just congrats to Auburn men's basketball or congrats to this, he hasn't been saying anything. So if you're wondering where he's at, he's listening. He's out doing his listening tour. He's on campus. He started work. And I think that you probably won't really hear anything from him, so to speak, probably for another month or two, based off of everything that I'm hearing. So
that's weird. It's a long time to
when it comes to vision and like laying out what you're going to do, not necessarily. Especially when you're taking over an athletics department that's been dealing with a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? From off the field, off the court. And he's going to have some decisions to make. As far as even maybe with both basketball programs. And I'm not speaking necessarily of firing Bruce Pearl. I think that's all going to be taken care of about his future when the NCAA comes to town and Auburn kind of starts communicating with the NCAA about the entire FBI investigation. But what complicates matters further, and you reported on this right before the game on Wednesday night, is that Chuck Person's not going to court for more than a year.
Yeah, so nothing. I mean, there's things going to be leaked, but I mean, a lot of that stuff's not going to be coming out for a while.
And the FBI is not helping the NCAA out on this at all.
No.
So it's all going to come down to the NCAA coming to town and Auburn obviously doing their own investigating and to see if there's any spider webs beyond Chuck Person and what he allegedly did. And so when you hear Mike and I or any other reporter saying we don't know what's going to happen, I mean, we don't. No one does. Auburn doesn't know. They don't have an inkling until they sit down and talk to Bruce Pearl further. But, the underlying thing here that I keep coming back to, and it's just because it's a by-the-book type thing, the NCAA has really pushed that idea of a head coach is responsible for the actions of its assistant coaches. And I'm sure that'll come into play because, listen, Bruce Pearl was hired, and he said so himself. I mean, he was kind of on thin ice coming in. He's got to run a clean program. But I think it's interesting, and this has been the case from the beginning, the FBI's kind of pitched this whole thing as these people that we arrested were working on their own and were taking advantage of the programs and their positions. So at face value, you would think that puts Bruce Pearl in a better position. But as I said, it's all about what Auburn and the NCAA find out and if there is anything else. But anyway, relating that back to Alan Green, I don't necessarily know if he would be heavily involved in decision-making there. I think that's more or less going to be compliance and the president's office making any final calls if it comes to that after the season's over with. And this is something that could stretch months because, as I said, the FBI is not going to cooperate with Auburn and the NCAA, and the NCAA still has to get involved, and Bruce Pearl still has to talk to Auburn and their investigators when the season ends. Now, as it relates to women's basketball, that could be a different matter. Coach Flo, they just beat LSU for their third SEC win, but they are not doing very well. You keep hearing that we don't cover women's basketball recruiting. Really, no one does, but they got a pretty good class coming in, so that might actually help her no matter what happens this season. She's been to back-to-back NCAA tournaments, but in women's basketball in the SEC right now, you're seeing that there is a great, great divide between the top like 3 or 4 programs and everybody else. You've got Tennessee, you got South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Texas A&M, right? Mississippi State's number 2 in the nation right now. And what hurts teams like Auburn and programs like Auburn is that Mississippi State, hey, they've been good at women's basketball before, but not this good. And they're in a similar position as Auburn. So why shouldn't Auburn be a top 5 or top 10 program? And Mississippi State turned that all around in a matter of 4 years, 3 years really. And of course, Tennessee's always Tennessee. Texas A&M has really jumped up over these last 8 years. So what does Auburn do? I mean, they've been in the NCAA tournament, but they've never really been a team you thought would go deep at all, and they're not blowing teams out. I mean, you see these top 3 or 4 teams in the SEC, they're like blowing everybody out. Mississippi State just came off like a 48-point win on the road at Florida. There's a great divide happening, and teams like Auburn have got to slow that a little bit, but is Coach Flo the answer? That's the big question. But what might help her, no matter what happens this season, that I've been told, is they've got a really good recruiting class coming in. So keep an eye on that if you're wondering. But outside that, I don't see.
So you think Green's going to come in and just blow everything up, fire everybody?
No, I don't think so. I guess that's what I was trying to get to, is that I don't see Alan Green doing anything with a lot of coaches.
Right.
But when it comes to staff, every AD makes changes within the athletics department, and that's the thing to watch here the next 2 months. That's why I think it's going to take 1 to 2 months for that stuff to kind of get hammered out as he goes through his listening tour.
Should come up with a name for it, right? That's what the marketing department does here.
Well, you know what? Their signing day show, much less flashy than it has been in the past, and that's because one of their people, I say one of their people, but one of their top dogs who handled all that is gone now. And this was a change before Alan Green came on board. It wasn't like Alan Green said, let's get rid of this. But so they just kind of, it seemed very slapped together last minute. And Rod Bramblett and Ronnie Brown especially did a pretty good job on the show, but it didn't have the, coaches on as guests, and it didn't have, an athletics director on there. I remember the previous ones were pretty much like a QVC ad for Jay Jacobs' tenure and how great he was. And that was all by design. That wasn't the case this year, obviously. Very different. They had a big set and everything in previous years. This year they were just sitting in the rain room on couches.
Oh, really? Because I was on the road.
Yeah, that's right. The previous years they had that big setup with the.
And it was at Jordan Hare Stadium last year, and they had that. Yeah, they had like a real talk show kind of feel.
They were literally just sitting on couches in front of the national championship trophy in the rain room. Yeah, it's very strange. So,
well, like we talked about, I think we disagreed. I said next year they'll do it for the early signing day because there was nothing to cover. You had 7 guys, and there was that gap because they were waiting for the last 2, but they were almost done by like 7:30, basically, essentially.
Yeah, it's this whole new setup is screwing up a lot of stuff for big programs as far as making everything seem huge. One day or the other. It's like having 2 Christmases. It's like going to your your family's Christmas and then your in-laws' Christmas on the same day.
Well, and Auburn didn't know what to do. I mean, no, I don't think any program did. They were kind of waiting to see how it all planned out, so you didn't want to do it. So next year it'll be interesting to see how teams approach it because I think it'll be different.
Yeah. I think it would also help when Auburn gets someone probably leading in that position again, like I said, because the person who was running that was Cassie Arner. She's now at Illinois. She left and was really in charge of all that stuff on the broadcast side. This year they took quite the hit. Another thing with signing day, they finally released Gus's contract. It was signed January 26th, but they didn't release it till literally the day before signing day. And I was told that one of the reasons why it was released is because Auburn was taking quite the hit on the recruiting trail from, negative recruiting happens for these other schools that, Gus hadn't signed his contract yet and all this, and it was putting doubt in people's minds. And I don't know how much releasing the contract the day before signing day was going to help that.
That's silly.
So I don't know. I mean, I've had people tell me that, but I just don't quite understand that approach. Maybe if they released it 2 weeks ago, or a week ago when it was signed, it was signed January 26th, release it then, maybe it helps you out. But even that, I don't know.
But 75%, man. Whoa,
yeah, 75% guaranteed. That Gus is set, and Gus is building a lake house at Lake Martin. He told me that after the signing day press conference. We heard something about it, and he said, "Yep, it's happening." They've already bought the land apparently, and going to start work on that. So, big money.
Oh boy,
Tommy,
that's
it's
a lot
of money, dude. He's. It's one thing for him to be set for life. He's set for life. His kids are set for life, and his grandchildren are set for life.
But 75% is a lot for a buyout of that contract.
Yeah.
Of that
it's
magnitude.
No Jimbo Fisher, 100%, but man, 75% something.
And you're betting, and you're almost negotiating it yourself. I mean, Arkansas couldn't have been offering that package.
Yeah. I guess financially speaking, at least Auburn, it's almost like a loan in the sense that they split it up to where they have to pay him 50% of that 75% if they fire him immediately within like 30 days. But then after that, they're paying him as the other 50% over a 4-year period annually. So it's almost like they're paying a head coach or a first-year head coach or something for the next 4 years after that.
And no mitigating factor, though. So if he gets a job, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, if he gets a job, his buyout he owes to Auburn is substantially less.
No, but I'm saying if he gets a job, if he gets a job and after he's fired, nothing comes off the contract.
You're right. Yeah, there's no offset there. Yeah,
there's no offset. So I mean, he could be like in theory. Like if he were to get fired and then take another job, he could be making like that first year salary, like got 30, whatever it is, and then added to another salary. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's the world we live in.
He's your coach though for the next 3 to 4 years.
I was looking at those numbers. Someone on our board did a very good job of breaking it down year by year. Just looking at those numbers, there's no way he's not here for at least 3 more years.
There's 0% chance. I mean, he'd have to do for cause, and they'd be able to get out. That there'd be no way to get out with just like, well, you're not winning enough games. Like it doesn't matter. He could win 0 games. I think he'd be the coach for 3 years.
Yeah. So there you go.
Right? There's no way.
Listen, the money continues to increase from the SEC network and the SEC. Here's the thing. It all depends on. I mean, this is all hypothetical and down the road, but. How much money does Auburn really have in reserve? Because Jay Jacobs has said for like the last 3 years they have $30 million. But it's almost like just a throwaway line, And they're not, and that money's not publicly available to be released through open records, like finding out exactly how much it is. So he just keeps saying $30 million, like, yeah, but why is it not changing? And why is $30 million a number you always say? So I wonder what Alan Green knows, which it's just going to be interesting. I mean, a lot of reasons why what Alan Green does the next few months can be interesting, but I think you'll be able to read a lot into maybe some of his first moves and fundraising and whether they can start certain things sooner than later. And that'll tell you a little bit maybe more on what they have in reserve and what they're expecting financially. Because he's inherited just an interesting situation on a lot of spectrums, really, not just financially, but the coaches and the dynamic within the department, the dynamic among boosters. He's got this listening tour. Like I said, the 2-month thing. I mean, he might need more time. I mean, listen, any job it takes you time to really get your feet wet, but for him and just handling all this and stuff, he's got to sit back and listen and kind of really make some maybe some tough decisions down the stretch here. Going into the summer. And the good thing for him is, he's got a summer really to help out with his the way he wants to roll things out as well. It isn't like he got hired in August and he has an entire academic year to have to worry about. So, all right, let's go to listener questions before we end the podcast here. I want to thank everybody for submitting their questions. Let's start off with LCB3. Excuse me, on Twitter. He asks, with Jarrett Stidham being out for a portion of the spring, with equal reps, can Joey Gatewood play his way into the number 2 quarterback spot or carve out a role since the running game might need a spark? That's an interesting question. I would think maybe Malik Willis would have more of a chance to carve out more of a role in the offense than Joey Gatewood, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, and if you're going to tell Malik Willis that he's going to go down to the 3rd string, you're probably going to lose. He's young enough where you can't do that yet. Right. You just can't. So, yeah, I think Malik Willis will be able to kind of gain more confidence, and maybe he gets a package or two this season. Especially since they know what Jarrett can do now. They don't need to give him all those reps, especially late in games where you can kind of look to Malik a little more, especially if he's going to get more practice time.
Yeah. Joey Gatewood is the quarterback of the future, possibly, certainly, but his running style and everything, I think that if you're going to develop a package for a quarterback and give them more playing time, because as you said, maybe with the running game, maybe needing it because of all the running backs that have left, it would be Malik Willis, because Joey Gatewood's going to be built more. Just because, listen, he played here. Cam Newton or Dak Prescott or Tim Tebow, that's the type of runner he is. He's not the fast guy like Malik Willis or even a Nick Marshall. Malik Willis compares more to Nick Marshall than the others. He's got more experience. I think you put him in there. But this spring's going to be fun to watch just because it's pretty much going to be the Joey Gatewood and Malik Willis show. We're really going to get to see a lot of them with the first team offense. Well, the coaches will. Those practices will be closed to us. I'm just going to ask. I'm going to put this question out there anyway. You've heard of coacheshotseat.com, right?
I have not.
It's exactly what it is. Oh my gosh, this is a serious question, and I'm not trying to make fun of you, but Jesus, how many games does Gus Malzahn have to win in 2018 to return as coach in 2019?
0.
I mean, he's not getting fired. And here's our answer: 8 wins. Anything less than the Gus Bus is done on the Plains. Are you freaking serious? Come on.
I honestly think 0.
He would have to not win a single game.
I don't think there's any.
Chance.
There's no
Okay.
game. There's like 0. Like if he lost every game, like he'd still. I don't think they could fire him.
Oh my goodness. 8 wins or less. Oh man. Have you looked at the new contract? We just talked about it.
Maybe if like there's like literally like a revolt on the sidelines with the players like leading a charge against the coaching staff.
It would have to be like something bad. And something
like
that would be obviously you could fire with cause. It's not going to be win or losses.
Yeah, fire with cause. I don't think anything on the football field, like barring something like insane that we haven't seen before, I just don't see it. It's too much money.
Yeah, they would owe him a little over, I think, $31 million.
How do you have that and then pay him within what you said 30 days for 50% of that or whatever, 75% of that? There's just no way you could have. That'd sink the athletic department
there goes your rollover. It wouldn't sink the athletics department for the year, but
well, no, but I mean, you'd have to
make some big cutbacks.
You'd make some cut. I mean, your construction budget would vanish in a second. You know, things would change. Yeah. But
football facility would be taken off the board for a couple of years.
I just thought. You know, they're not going to lose. They're not going to lose every game either. No. So I mean, it's like, you know, in worst case scenario, they'll win 6 games or something. Something goes wrong. Jarrett Stidham's hurt.
Yeah, with all the talent they've got, I mean, worst case for this team with the talent, it should be 6 wins.
So I mean, and 6 wins just wouldn't do it. There'd be zero.
Still want to get fired.
I don't even think his seat would be warm.
No, hey, his seat. He's got besides Nick Saban.
His seat's made of money.
His seat is made of money, and
it's made of
non-flammable money.
Yeah. Right, he's sitting on just a pile of coins. Like I don't think that.
And coins are cold.
And they're not flammable, so it doesn't even matter. So I don't get that. I mean, people are saying it just because he's making so much money that he's more of a. I think that you're going to get
more
negative. There's going to be more negative headlines, but I don't think that makes us seat hot. Like he's going to get roasted if this team struggles.
There's going to be more pressure and more expectations, higher expectations from fans because of the money.
Right. But that doesn't make his seat hot. It just makes it uncomfortable if he doesn't perform well. But what would he care? He'll take his pile of money and go to Lake Martin and sit.
Yep. Tony Perry asks, are we seeing Cody Burns really start to blossom as recruiter and wide receivers coach? Or is this more of a side effect of Chip Lindsey? Makes it sound like an illness. I think Cody Burns has done a good job the first year on the field and as a recruiter. I mean, just look at the production of the receivers and what he had, and look at what he's done on the recruiting trail, getting 4 pretty good receivers. I think he's done a good job his first year as a full-time coach.
Well, Justin Ross wasn't convinced.
Oh,
sure. I'm just saying. He said flat out, Auburn doesn't develop receivers. What are you gonna do?
In Cody Burns' defense, the reaction there would be, I've only been the coach for a year.
We'll see. I think he has some work to do coaching wise. You know, they did. Ryan Davis obviously made some improvement.
Huge improvement, man.
And Darius Slayton did, but they haven't hit on a lot of those young guys yet, and so we'll see.
But those are also
like
guys that he. Yeah, sure. I mean, go ahead.
Nate Craig didn't really light the world on fire, and that was your vote for offensive MVP.
Well, see, when I vote you for offensive MVP, you should just transfer because you're probably going to have a bad season. I've got the freaking bad touch, man.
We'll see. I think he's going to need to develop somebody this year. I mean, they're going to need one of those guys to hit a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Woodson on Twitter asked, what's your favorite offensive play? Read option, jet sweep, bubble screen, or wheel route? Give me the wheel route every day.
Handoff down the middle.
I used to love draw plays.
Yeah, draw.
Just kidding. Well, when Nick Marshall was on campus, zone read and read option. Those were always fun. Yeah. Dude just had a knack for running the offense. He knew exactly what to do and when. Very, very good. One of the best option quarterbacks I've ever seen. Let's see. Okay. One more question from Blake Ells. How much emphasis do you think the new athletics director will put on scoreboard size? He might tear that one down. That thing's... It's too big. Don't you think?
I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
you can't do anything to it, but it's just too big.
I don't think you can split them into 2 and have two of them. You know, it's like that's not really how they work.
In half and put the other one on another side of the stadium.
Yeah, I don't think that's how that works.
The thing's too big. It just is. You can't see it properly from some seats. You know, I guess the good thing for the media is that we won't see it anymore in the new press box.
That's right. We don't have any kind of view.
I don't think we will, though we might be able to see a bit of it out of the corner of our eye. It might actually be more distracting than anything because you have this big light coming out of the right side of your eye. in the press box, the new press box.
Yeah.
I don't. Allen doesn't strike me as a guy who cares a lot about big scoreboards, and we have to get a big scoreboard in. We have to put a big Band-Aid on what the actual issue is with the stadium, is that it needs to be renovated and updated.
But does he like funnel cakes is the question.
Yes. Funnel cakes and 50 Mama Goldberg stands inside the stadium. And Chick-fil-A.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Watched Altered Carbon. I thought it was really good.
The thing's getting mixed reviews. Is it good?
I haven't seen mixed reviews. I've seen only
Really?
positive. It's really good. Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Well, maybe I need to watch that. I don't know.
It looks like it's really good.
I don't know. The thing that's holding me back is that the actor makes me mad.
Kinnaman?
Joel Kinnaman.
No, because of that RoboCop.
He kind of upset me.
That wasn't his fault.
Yeah, you're right there, actually. But I just associate him with it.
Yeah, no, I get you.
I might check that out. I need to find a show to watch.
Yeah, that was good.
And there's still some movies I want to see I still haven't seen, but those might actually be out of theaters by now. Disaster Artist and the Churchill movie. I can't remember what it's called now.
Darkest Hour, I think.
Whatever, yeah. Then Black Panther comes out next week. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's getting good reviews.
It was 100%. Someone gave it a negative review, knocked down 99% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I'm not going to see it now.
Also, that Han Solo trailer came out on Super Bowl. Horrible.
Yeah. I just think that movie is such a stupid idea to begin with. So,
there are a lot of stupid ideas in Hollywood, but doing origin stories about characters who are cool or mysterious is stupid. Because the moment you start deconstructing someone, that is the reason why they are popular, and deconstructing how they became that, it's not a good idea.
Well, same thing with the rumored
Joker movie. That's
Joker
exactly
thing.
what that's exactly what I was getting to.
Worst idea ever.
Dumb. Don't do an origin story for the Joker, and don't do a Joker movie. Because
you're not going to build. I mean, unless you're just making it like a horror film, there's no sympathy to build for a serial killer. I mean, it's just not a good idea.
The Joker is a serial killer who gets off on people dying and people facing threats in their lives and thinking it's a big joke. You can't put an entire movie around that unless it's like some type of NC-17, it would have to be one of those like grindhouse horror movies.
Yeah, it's just not a good idea.
and even with Joaquin Phoenix, who's an amazing actor, he can't. It's just that thing's doomed. They'll never make it. They'll never make it.
I don't think so.
But anyway, the Solo movie. The only thing that interested me with that was seeing Lando.
Yeah,
but that again goes back to he's cool. I already know he's cool based on the way he acts. I don't need to know how he became cool. I don't need to know that. Oh, he was actually was trying to be an imperial officer or whatever in the start. That ruins things, man. I don't need to know the background of that. But Disney likes money, and they're going to continue making that stuff. Do you see the Deadpool trailer?
Yeah, I didn't think. I mean, I don't know. I don't.
You
really
didn't like the first one?
No, and the tone, and I mean, I get it. I get why some people like it.
You don't think just saying something revolving around pop culture is a joke?
Right.
Yeah.
So, trying to think what were the Super Bowl trailers. Can't even remember.
The Tide commercials were great. We were talking about that off the air.
Yeah. I mean, Lost World. Lost World 2. It doesn't look.
Yeah, Lost
good.
World 2. The remake of the Lost World does not look good. Whatever approach they're going with that movie, it looks like that thing is going to. It's not going to fail, but Universal is going to be so disappointed by the box office returns on that movie.
Unless just people like dinosaurs, which might be the case.
I don't know, man. I think there'll be some fatigue with that. It'll be just like the The Last Jedi, which made a lot of money, but nowhere near what The Force Awakens did.
Oh, the Mission Impossible trailer was amazing, I thought. Oh, did you watch the full thing?
No, I don't think I have, no.
That was really, really good. And I never liked the Mission Impossible movies, but until they got to like the fourth one, and now like they're my favorite thing.
That's the thing. I stopped watching them when that happened. It was almost like,
because I saw the fourth one in like true IMAX, like the big IMAX, not the faux IMAX. That's the one where he's standing out on the building.
And that was the one directed by Brad Bird, right?
Yeah, I almost fainted. It was really? Incredible. Yeah. I thought that was because it was shot in the IMAX camera, I think, too. But they've been good, and this one looks really good as well.
What's his big stunt in this movie? Because these last 3 or 4 movies, he's got some huge stunt. What's his stunt this time?
There's a helicopter thing where he's hanging on a helicopter.
I don't know how you beat hanging off of a airplane taking off.
Well, hanging on off a rope, hanging on a helicopter.
Man, Tom Cruise is. Say what you want about him, but man, he puts his heart into everything. That guy just does not care about his body.
And they've freed Henry Cavill's mustache, so we gotta support.
That's the one thing I did like about the Deadpool trailer. Was the little joke they showed Cable with the green screen or the green arm that hadn't been replaced yet by the digital, and they said, "Gosh, this isn't as hard as removing a mustache or whatever." I thought that was nice, but again, a pop culture reference. It's not an actual joke. Yeah. That new Jurassic Park movie looks bad. I have no interest in that. Well, I'll have interest. I'll go see it because I'm a gullible person, and they feed off our nostalgia, and that's why I'll go.
Oh, that theme song's so good.
What's the obsession with studios taking these great theme songs and like slowing them down or doing them in different keys or playing them with different instruments?
I think that Jurassic Park theme song is so good. You could do anything to it. It would be good.
Yeah, I don't agree with that because they've screwed it up.
And I don't think so. I disagree with that one.
I don't like these little sounds like nail scratching on chalkboard with the song. They do these trailers. I don't like it. I also think I might be getting Chris Pratt fatigue.
That's a medical condition. That's a real thing.
No one gets Chris Pratt fatigue, and I've got it.
Well, Anna Faris did.
Oh,
hey.
Wonder what happened there. That's interesting. Let's go to TMZ.com. Yeah. So.
That's all I got.
Stop making Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I think they need. Well, no, but they're going to do 2 more trilogies with the random characters. That's not.
Stop.
They need to just take
stop.
A break.
Disney loves money. Just stop. Last Jedi just killed my interest in this trilogy.
Yeah.
It just has. Force Awakens kind of. I was like, man, this could be pretty good, and then Rian Johnson came in, I thought destroyed it. A lot of.
Is it Ryan or is it Rain?
Who cares? Like Rain, he washed away what I liked about Star Wars.
Hey, there you go. That's a good.
That guy. They gave him too much freedom. That's when Disney should have stepped in and said, "All right, listen. We're pretty hands-on with every movie we make, but we especially need to be with Star Wars." And I thought he just, oh man, it's like he came in and he tore everything that J.J. Abrams was setting up down. I didn't like it. Anyway, all right. Oh, I saw the new Cloverfield movie.
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay.
It was kind
of a mess. It was okay in parts, but nothing amazing. Good ideas. But got very generic in the final 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And predictable. Also, what turned me off, what started turning me on the movie, was actually when, spoilers, Chris O'Dowd, the actor, he loses his arm. and he starts making arm and hand jokes.
You thought he should take it more seriously?
No, he did it. He did like 3 jokes in a row, and I was like, "Hey, spread these out." But he kept doing them, and I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, give me a hand." Like, okay, so this went from, "Oh my God, weird things are happening. My arm is lost," to, "Oh, my arm's gone. That's funny." Really? Talk about tone.
That's a very specific complaint.
But that's when my mind started changing on the movie. I was like, okay, this is weird. That's not what you're supposed to be doing right now. Anyway, 10 Cloverfield Lane's about 50 times better.
I never saw that
saw
one.
10 Cloverfield Lane?
Yeah, I'm never in the mood to watch just sitting around in a house.
Well, even after having the ending ruined for me, I still sat down and watched it and really enjoyed it. It's really good.
I've heard nothing but good things, but it's just,
John Goodman makes the whole movie, man. He's incredible. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. But get there eventually.
Yeah, they're apparently making another one of those Cloverfield movies. I guess what they've just been doing is taking these old scripts that had nothing to do with Cloverfield and just shoehorning in Cloverfield stuff.
Yep.
Which,
that's what they are
with
doing.
this last movie, you could definitely tell that it was something else. It was a very generic movie. That thing would, if they released that, even this new version, in theaters, it would not have cracked $50 million.
No.
That was not a good movie, and Paramount made the right choice in selling it to Netflix. They sold it to Netflix for $50 million, so they did a pretty good. That was a pretty good idea. You want to pay us $50 million for this? Have at it. Anyway, all right. I guess that's it. We've lost everybody, as always. So, anyway, thanks for joining us on the Auburn Undercover podcast. We'll see you at some point down the road. I don't know when. It'll happen.